I've been obsessed.
Good Saturday morning to all our weekend warrior police officers working tonight or today. I am your host of the Faded Blue podcast, Faded Blue Line podcast, Brandon Roberts. Sorry, I have not had enough caffeine as of yet, so I'm waking up, trying to get this going. Figured I'd hop on for a morning episode. Got nothing better to do right now. So, how's everybody doing? Everybody have a good Friday night out there? Mine was pretty uneventful. I got off work, worked on my car, and went and ate dinner at a really good burger place here locally in my area of Texas. Then came home and went to bed. Exciting Friday night, early night. I think I was in bed by maybe 10 o'clock, if even that late on a Friday night. But that's what happens when you get old, right? So in today's Saturday morning edition, I got a couple things we're going to do. We're going to do, updated law enforcement news for today. That'll be the first thing we do is go through the news and see what is affecting law enforcement right now. Going to have a discussion today about different types of interdiction that are out there because most people focus all on dope and money. That's all they want to work the highway and they want to get dope and money. But there's a bunch of different things out there that you can do to be successful, and you may not necessarily have a good highway for large loads of dope, but you can have other things on there. Think about having the discussion of Glock versus Sig. This is a pretty heated topic amongst people all the time. So we'll see what happens there, and then we'll get into some training at the end. I tried to on the last episode do a little training for you guys regarding evading honesty stuff. So we'll explore some topics at the end of the episode. Matt Fortuna just posted in the chat that he had one suicidal person. Then another person broke the glass in the detox cell. That was his Friday night. So he was definitely working. So for those of you who might be tuning in, jump into the Discord or the YouTube chat. And if you are tuning in on YouTube, like I said, I am going to be doing the broadcast from YouTube, not directly to Facebook. So the interaction is a little limited right now until people start subscribing or clicking the link. So make sure you hit subscribe and hit that little bell down there if you want to listen to the podcast. It's something to listen to while you're at work. About an hour-long podcast, and I haven't picked out the days or the times yet, but I'm trying to vary them and see what the participation is right now before I pick out what days it is. But our first pilot episode was broadcasted directly to Facebook, and I had a lot of interaction. A lot of people watching, and I knew going over to YouTube was going to be a little bit more limited in that, but that's what we're doing. The quality of the YouTube broadcasts are better. The chats are better. The interaction abilities are better. So we will be broadcasting from YouTube. It just requires you to click a link when it's shared on the Facebook group, or subscribe and hit that little bell down on the bottom, and your YouTube app on your phone will let you know when we go live. So let's look at the news for today. What has happened with law enforcement over the last 24 hours? Minneapolis Council narrowly approves 496 grand to hire outside police forces. So they're having short staffing issues in Minneapolis after they demanded the defunding of law enforcement, and they are now allocating funds to hire outside police forces to assist them in the mess that they have created. Here's some statistics that are pretty interesting. It's an increase of crime in Minneapolis. So let's look at this. Arson in the year 2019, they had 72 cases of arson. As of 2020, they have 127 cases so far. That's a plus 76% change. Looks like assaults. They had 2,114 assaults in year 2019. For year 2020, they have 2,616. That's plus 24%. Homicides, year 2019, were 39. As of today, or yesterday, year-to-date 2020, 73. So they have a plus 87% increase in homicides for the city of Minneapolis. Robberies, year-to-date 2019, 1,161. As of yesterday, 2020, 1,593. So they have a plus 37% increase in robberies for Minneapolis. And those statistics were through November 9th. I apologize if they were a little inaccurate. It wasn't yesterday's November 9th. So they've demanded the defunding of law enforcement in the city of Minneapolis. The city of Minneapolis then has a massive increase in crime, and then wants to allocate funds to hire outside police departments to fix their problems. Which how will that work? Because if the city is allocating funds to hire police officers or outside agencies to answer their calls for them, how exactly will that work with they defunded the police department because they want more control over what's going on. Yet they're going to bring in outside police departments to handle their uh, their crime, who they don't have control over. Their Minneapolis does not have control over outside police departments administration and how they run their policies. This is just it's like a tornado of problems starting for the city of Minneapolis. Uh, so if anybody is in that area and is listening, get on the YouTube chat and let me know what it's like up there, or hop into the Discord. Um, we would really like to get some people participating. It'd be awesome to have people jump in the show like we did on the pilot episode. Makes for a lot more interesting show. So, all right, let's see what else we have going on in law enforcement news today. Just like the last episode, I'm going to start it with news. All right, so convicted killer Scott Peterson to remain in San Quentin State Prison awaiting retrial. I believe he was a police officer in California who allegedly, I believe he was actually found guilty of murdering his pregnant wife and unborn child. So he is apparently trying to get a retrial and will remain in prison. Um, Looks like Louisville, Kentucky police accused of concealing records of officer abuse of Explorer Scouts. Um, Sexual abuse of Explorer Scouts. New report alleges that the Louisville Metro Police Department covered up almost 740,000 records documenting the sexual abuse of Explorer Scouts by 2 officers. Wow. Never been a big fan of the Explorer program. Not to say that it's a bad thing. I just don't think it is I don't think it's a good idea to put juveniles in police cars where incidents can happen, critical incidents can happen, and especially when you have 17-year-old female officers getting in the car with male officers. Probably not a good idea. Um, some of them, most of them, probably there to learn and maybe want to be police officers. But what if you get one that happens to be what we like to call a badge bunny at a young age? That can just be problems. I know that a agency I am familiar with out of Florida had a male officer who was doing inappropriate things with a underage Explorer Scout. So it can happen, and apparently in Louisville it has happened. Excuse me while I take a cup of my Caliber coffee here, a drink out of it. So I'm going to click on this and see what it says, because 740,000 records. Um, wow, I mean that's got to be text messages. I don't see how 2 officers can create 740,000 pages of records, or you know, there's definitely not 740,000 independent incidents of this happening. That would be some world record stuff there if 2 officers did that many times. But it says there's a suit to be litigated against the city for $6 million in damages. I'm assuming being brought by the 2 victims um, in this case. So let's see here: 700 sexual abuse of by 2 former officers. So it says the Explorer Scout program is designed for males and females ages 10 to 20. There is no reason for a 10-year-old to be in a patrol car with anybody. But they have one for ages 10 to 14 and then one for older. And let's see what happens. It says that 2 officers became under scrutiny in October 2016 when they were accused of misconduct. I'm not going to name them because we don't know what the incident is. It says in March of 2017, a 22-year-old filed a sealed lawsuit against the 2 officers and also accusing the lieutenant who ran the program of covering up abuse. 3 days later, the mayor shut down the program. The FBI opened an investigation. Oh, okay. Apparently these guys were charged. Um, and they were convicted. So I will list their names. It says May 2019, 34-year-old Woods. His name is Officer Brandon Woods. Was sentenced to 70 months in prison for enticement charges. And 36-year-old Kenneth Betts was sentenced to 16 years on child porn and enticement charges. Betts also was found guilty of sodomy. So, like I said, I've uh, never been a big fan of the Explorer program. I don't think it's a good idea to put them in the car with adults in situations that law enforcement officers may be involved in. Are any of you guys out there listening involved in the Explorer program? If anybody's in the chat, whether it be the text chat with YouTube or the Discord, um, how many of you guys are involved in the Explorer program? How many of you have to take them in your cars when they want to ride? And how does that work? I have seen at places where they're not allowed to go ride on patrol, and I've seen in other places where they are allowed to ride with patrol, and I just don't think that's a good idea. I want to say there was a instance years back. I'm not sure, maybe 5, 6 years ago, where an explorer was killed with an officer in a shooting um, on a traffic stop. I do not recall where that was, but I want to say I did see that somewhere. So, but along with the dangers that can come from uh, from having juveniles in a critical incident, you also have like this instance in Louisville where two officers were doing inappropriate sexual acts with juveniles, and I don't believe that is a good idea. All right, so it appears that Alexandria Ocasio Cortez is defending her defund the police movement and not happy with the fact that the Democrats lost a lot of seats in the House. Um, and she's accusing the Republicans of weaponizing the fact that they want to defund the police against them. Um, let's see here. North Carolina nightclub shooting leaves police officers and others wounded on Thursday night. Not exactly sure where that was, but if you're in North Carolina and you were involved in that, get better. I hope you don't get you're not hurt. All right, so Brian Augustino is in the Faded Blue Line Discord chat and says good morning. Good morning, Brian. Do you want to get on live today? Would you like to talk? Brian, for those who saw the screenshot I took of somebody who had found a trailer that was running with a bad license plate that wasn't registered for that trailer, was the one who found that, and he's a DOT officer in I believe Pennsylvania, and he said that the guy laughed and had been through 4 or 5 DOT inspections and nobody caught on to the fact that he had um, a bad tag on it because not nobody knows the difference between these trailers, and that's what's good about the swipe and swap program is it teaches you so you can recognize these things. And his wasn't a stolen trailer, a swap trailer, but it was a guy who just didn't want to re-register the trailer. So he was running an old tag for a Great Dane, and it wasn't a Great Dane. And Brian was able to figure that out because of the swipe and swap class. And it's just funny that the guy laughed about it and said that nobody had figured it out for like 6 months. So Brian is saying he is not able to talk, but he is listening at work. Well, I appreciate you listening. You be careful out there. Looks like Sean Eddy says good morning in the chat, enjoying the chat. Thank you for listening and tuning in. All right, so let's move on to the next topic here. There's not a whole lot of law enforcement news to talk about that I'm seeing, other than the fact that they are still trying to defund the law enforcement, yet in the places that they're demanding the defunding, they're having major problems with crime and now asking outside agencies to help. How ironic. Hold on, let me what is that Kermit the Frog thing where he's sipping on his coffee and says this is none of my business. So well, I'm gonna sip on this cup of Caliber coffee. Enjoy my caffeine for the morning. All right, so next topic: different types of interdiction out there. Everybody seems to be so stuck on just drug interdiction, just highway, just dope and money. Whether it be low-level thugs or high-level cartel people, everybody wants to get they worship the fact that they can get large amounts of dope or money, and they forget all about the other things that can make you successful out there. Um, Now, most of my career has been in drug and money interdiction. However, I moved out of that when I transferred to Texas and started exploring different avenues of interdiction, and it has opened up a whole new world to me and to you guys because I've been able to bring things like the swipe and swap to you guys, and even brought Billy Jones, who is a master at parcel interdiction, to one of my classes to teach there. So, the different things that you can be involved in outside of just dope and money, you have things like swipe and swap. Um, and for those who don't know what that is where I teach to interdict stolen commercial vehicle trailers that have had their VIN numbers swapped and are now operating as if they are legal trailers, but they're not. Um, and that goes. You don't just have trailers. You have the vehicles too, the commercial tractors that are stolen. You can interdict heavy equipment, like the amount of uh, stolen construction equipment out there is ridiculous as well. You have jet skis, you have boats. There's just so many things out there. We just had some Chapter 47 hearings recently here in my justice court, where the Texas Parks and Wildlife seized a bunch of boats and jet skis from a boat rental operation, and they were all stolen out of Houston and had fake VIN number or HIN numbers, as they call them, the hull identification numbers, attached to them. And I got to talk it. I've never done jet skis or boats, just the commercial vehicle stuff and cars. And I got to talking to the Parks and Wildlife guy, and he specializes in theft, the identification of theft, stolen boats and jet skis, and the way that he operates is identical, and the way that these criminals who were doing their operation with the jet skis and the boats operate were identical to the guys who do the stolen trailers, like swipe and swap. um, and it was pretty neat to see how that this guy is doing the exact same thing that I do with trailers and commercial vehicles, um, but he's doing it with boats and jet skis, and it was neat to see the operation. But he seized, God, I think he seized 8 jet skis and 2 boats that day, from a rental operation here at the lake. So and apparently it's a big organized operation for stealing stuff. So hold on, let me take another sip of this coffee. Mm, Nothing like morning coffee. Um, Another thing you could do is you could interdict. There's a huge problem of fuel theft, diesel theft specifically, um, at truck stops, and I came across it a lot in Florida. There would be either the two different types of operations I would see is like utility truck style trucks, like a pickup F250, F350 with a utility bed, like you'd see for a construction vehicle or some kind of work vehicle. But that bed inside there was converted to a giant tank, and they'd have a siphoning system where they could pull up next to semis while they're sleeping at night and siphon off their fuel. And I'd see the same kind of thing in semi trucks when I do commercial stops on the interstates in Florida, where you'd see large fuel tanks, um, e- extended fuel tanks underneath the skirting for a lot of the like Freightliners and KWs, or um, they would just, and those were guys who were stealing the fuel to actually sell it. Or you'd have I'd do a search of a commercial vehicle tractor and find, underneath the bunk or in their storage compartments a fuel pump that they could hook up to power and siphon off fuel from a truck next to them into their tank. And you'd see that very frequently. And I know some guys. I think Eric Garza in Houston area is now teaching how to interdict that kind of stuff. The guys who are out there stealing fuel. I actually talked to somebody in the past when I had made a stop, and they were stealing thousands of gallons of fuel and taking it to this little itty bitty hole in the wall mom and pop truck stop. I want to say it was in North Carolina, and they were selling the fuel to them dirt cheap. Um, and that truck stop was known in the trucker community for having cheap gas because they were buying it stolen gas. They weren't buying it from a legitimate dealership or a sales company for fuel. So it was pretty interesting to see that. So that's another option for interdiction out there. You have parcel interdiction. Not a whole lot of people work that, just like not a whole lot of people work the swipe and swap. Um, and the amount of drugs you see coming out of the mail is ridiculous. I started working parcel just as something to do extra to get my fix. I don't work the highway quite as much as I used to, or get to work it like I used to. And I was kind of, you get bit by the interdiction bug, you kind of have to find a way to get that fix. So I learned how to do the parcel stuff, and I started working the FedEx. And holy cow, the amount of dope it it got so bad, so much dope I was pulling out of FedEx ground that I had to stop because our evidence lockers were full. I had nowhere to put the dope. It was just so much of it out there, um, and that's the way it got almost every time I'd go to FedEx ground. I would come back with 15, 20 pounds of dope every single time. And it's pretty interesting how, excuse me, how ground works, because I would go to the ground center. I would find the manager of the night and ask, "Hey, um, what door is the Denver truck, or what door is the you know Seattle truck?" And obviously, those areas have legal marijuana and a lot of you know places that are growing it and selling it. And it's that easy. I'd go find the Denver truck and watch the boxes coming out. And once you learn how to spot the boxes, it's just like shooting fish in a barrel. There's so much of it coming in through the mail. Good coffee. And I did not work U.S. Postal Service because there's a little bit more. It's a little more difficult to work with the U.S. Postal Service because you have to have a postal inspector with you to use or to access anything postal wise. But UPS and FedEx are usually very cooperative. You kind of have to get somebody who's already in with them to get access. But once you do and you sign all their paperwork and their policies and whatnot to get in there, they're super cooperative. I've had no problems with FedEx. I have not worked a UPS facility. I did with Billy Jones in Augusta, Georgia. But here, our UPS facility is actually down in San Antonio. So that's outside of my county. But I have two FedEx facilities here in my area, and both FedEx facilities I have access to through their security. I got approved, and we have an express and a ground. And what a lot of people don't realize is FedEx Ground and FedEx Express are two separate entities. FedEx Express is your overnight mail. It's your one day, next day mail, and it goes by air. um, it's a lot more expensive to ship, and it is it's a lot quicker. Hold on one second. What? Sorry about that, guys. And So it's next day mail. It's a lot more expensive. It's the stuff that your big stuff will be in there, but it is FedEx Express is actually FedEx employees. They are directly employed by FedEx. They go through background checks, all that kind of stuff. Very very difficult to get in with FedEx Express directly. FedEx Ground, on the other hand, is the stuff that's being carried by truck, and the people that deliver that and the people that sort that are contract workers. So you'll see a lot uh, different style of people in a FedEx Ground facility. FedEx Ground is a lot bigger of a facility and a lot more packages. But I tend to, in my area, I get a lot more drugs out of the FedEx Ground facility than I do the FedEx Express facility. But I've had some good stuff come through FedEx Express. Several pounds of the dabs, the THC wax, have come through out of, I think it was out of Oregon where I got that out of. So these are the different things that you can find, um, different types of interdiction you can do out there. It doesn't just have to be the highway. It doesn't just have to be dope and money. Um, there's so many options out there for everybody to do. Let's say you work in an area that is not, you have a U.S. highway that doesn't necessarily connect a major, any major cities or a major, it's not a major route for travel between distribution cities. But you have a lot of truck traffic because it's a good route for truckers to use to get from, you know, one city to another without having to deal with traffic or whatnot. Um, you may not be able to get out there and get those giant glory shots that everybody wants with a lot of dope, but you can get out there and get trailers. So Sean Eddy is asking, are you talking about local stores or the big distribution centers? I work the distribution centers. I have a FedEx Express distribution center and I have a FedEx Ground distribution center in my jurisdiction. Um, Now, it's a little more difficult to get in with the local stores. Those are usually independently owned. And I'm assuming you're talking about the little shipping stores that are out there. Um, you have to kind of get a relationship with the manager or the owner of the store to get access to them because they are typically sole proprietorships, independent stores, and they don't want to alienate their customers. Um, so what I have done with them is I have talked to them. I've given them my card, told them what I'm doing and what I do, and a lot of them will tell you, hey, we got this, we get these packages every once in a while that smell like weed, or we get these suspicious packages for this particular person who wants them, held a certain way. And you kind of get a relationship with them and just tell them, hey, if you see something suspicious or something is out of place, let me know and give me a call and I will come check it out. And sometimes they'll call you, sometimes they won't. Sometimes the centers, the little local stores, are not very cooperative with you getting access to their customer stuff. They know that a lot of their customers, some of their customers, are having the private boxes or having it shipped there because they want the privacy, and they are a facility that provides that privacy to them. So they typically might be a little bit more resistant than going to a distribution center. But it all depends on the relationship with the owners of those stores or the managers of those stores. But it's worth a shot if that's what you have. I will tell you that the UP or the FedEx office stores are a lot harder to deal with than your local just post. I forgot what they call those stores, but the little local shipping stores. But go talk to them. Let them know what you do. If you learn how to do uh, interdiction, if you have a canine or something, if you learn how to do the parcel stuff, and go talk to them. So they'll let you in if you don't have a distribution center. You will have the hardest time you will have is with U.S. Postal Service, unless you have a postal inspector who is aggressive and likes to get into stuff. Matt Stum says, "Morning. Good morning to you too as well, sir." Does anybody want to get into the chat and get live on the air? It'd be awesome if some of you do. it makes for a lot more interesting show when I have interaction, and I'm getting some chatting interaction, which is good. So if you guys are tuning in, make sure you hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. And if you hit that little bell underneath, it'll let you know when I go on air. I'm experimenting currently with what times and days I get the most interaction. I've got quite a bit going on right now, which is good for Saturday morning. So just make sure you subscribe because I will not be broadcasting these directly to Facebook. I am going to do it with with YouTube instead. So subscribe. I know that when I switched from the Facebook feed to a YouTube feed, it was going to limit the amount of interaction I have until I get people to subscribe. Because with a Facebook feed, it's automatically playing through Facebook. So as people are scrolling through their Facebook feed on their phone, they will see it and hear it if they have it set to where they'll hear things going on, but they'll see it live, and it gets a lot more interaction that way because they don't have to click on anything. But with the YouTube link, that you literally have to click on it or have it subscribed and alerting through your YouTube app. But it'll get there. It'll take time for people to find it and subscribe. But we've already got a lot more interaction today than we did or was it yesterday or the day, a couple days ago. All right, so G Ferris says would love to chat, but got to get the dogs to the vet appointment. But listening, good job. Thank you, sir. Get those puppies to the vet. We definitely want them to be taken care of. Are we talking about canine, or are we talking about personal dogs? So, all right. Anybody have any questions on the different types of interdictions out there? Like I said, there's a lot of guys that we teach over the years, or we have taught over the years how to do interdiction, and they may not have the highways. They see all these glory shots of people with 50, 100 pounds, $500,000, and they dream of getting that, but they may not work in an area that allows for that, or they may not have the support of the administration which allows them to get the equipment and the things necessary, or spend the time they need on the interstate to get those kinds of loads, and you can still have success. I'm telling you right now, as somebody who's hit very large loads of dope and money, I get as much satisfaction from picking up a stolen trailer that has had a swiped VIN number and figuring it out, or pulling a box of dope out of circulation with FedEx as I do hitting a load on the highway. It's just as satisfactory. So for those of you who are looking for, to get into interdiction, or you're looking to do things that give you that satisfaction of hitting something, because I mean, I know a lot of, from my personal experiences, I am it's an addiction. I swear I'm just as addicted to interdiction as the dopers who are using the dope that I'm trying to get. So it's nice to have that feeling. So let's see here. Sean Eddy says, "Do you focus on other things besides swipe and swap at truck stops? We have 5 truck stops in our area, and I feel like there's a lot of things that are going on unnoticed." I typically focus on swipe and swap when I'm in the truck stops. However, I have seen a lot of strange activities going on in the middle of the night at truck stops, but I'm usually not in my vehicle to go stop any of the cars. You will see, if you do truck stop interdiction, you will see a lot of strange vehicle activity in the back of a truck stop. Now you got to understand, a lot of the people are dropping off drivers who might have went home. Maybe they're dropping off prostitutes, stuff like that. But you definitely will see some strange activity, and it's worth watching for cars and vehicles that are not commercial vehicles coming in and out of a truck stop. Um, and I've also seen and heard what I believe to be people in the back of trailers at times. So there's a lot of things. You definitely have the lot lizards running around if you want to deal with the prostitutes. um, they're rather scary sometimes, and I'm not sure that some of them are equipped to be females. But you definitely see that kind of stuff in the truck stops. I don't see it quite as much in our truck stops with the lot lizards. I think I've only seen them twice, but I know it goes on. But you definitely see a lot of strange vehicles that are not commercial vehicles going into the back of a truck stop, and it makes you wonder why. They're obvious if they're there to drop off a driver or pick up a driver, I get that. But if that would be the only legitimate reason for a car to go back there, um, and so keep an eye out for that kind of stuff. Definitely, there's a lot of things that go on at truck stops. A lot of exchanges go on at truck stops, stuff like that. You got to think if you have a big truck that's bringing dope into your area, um, there's a high likelihood that they are doing the exchange in the back of the truck stop with the local dealer. Um, so that might be a good thing for you to do. Um, Brian Augustino says if you need help with CMVs, hit me up. He'll do his best to help out anybody. Uh, Private message him for his phone number. It's always on. Yeah, Brian Augustino's good. He's the I believe he's out of Pennsylvania, and he is DOT, so he knows a lot about the commercial vehicles. All right. Let's see here. Matt Stump says I've had a lot of good luck talking with the delivery drivers in the neighborhoods. Uh, Regarding leaving packages at vacant houses on a regular basis because he doesn't have a hub, a distribution center in his beat. Um, yes, go talk to the drivers. Now, let me forewarn you on that. When the drivers are on a time limit, they are under a lot of pressure to get things out quickly and if anybody's ever seen Castaway at the beginning when Tom Hanks is at a distribution center in like Russia and they're on a clock to get everything sorted, it is literally like that. It is really like that. They have to move and sort a certain amount of packages per minute or per hour. They have to get out and make these deliveries quickly, they're under an extreme amount of pressure. And I will tell you, if you go work a FedEx Express facility, um, you will have a newfound respect for those guys and how hard they work. The pace that they work at and the weight of some of the stuff that they have to move around, you will get a huge respect for those guys because they bust their ass. um, but go talk to the drivers. They're not really encouraged to help you. If anything, it's more of a hassle and it might get them in trouble. But a lot of them will help you, and if you tell them what you're doing, they will let you know when they have a suspicious package. They get become friends with them. Give them your card. Tell them, hey, if you got a package that smells funky or you got packages you're leaving at vacant houses, let me know. And if they like you, they'll let you know, and you will definitely uh, get loads that way because a lot of these packages are being delivered to vacant homes and they pick them up right after the driver leaves. So you can maybe put surveillance on it. Say the driver says, "Hey, I got this package that I've dropped off twice at this vacant house in the last 2 weeks. Um, I'm leaving it there now." You can go set up down the road, watch for the car to go pull in there, pick it up, and then go make a legal traffic stop on the vehicle and probably get a a good load out of it. So yeah, give the drivers a call, or I'm sorry, go talk to the drivers when they're on their break or whatever. Don't hold them up for very long, but kind of get a relationship with them and then help them. Uh, if they tell them that they could call you for anything regarding any personal issues that need law enforcement as well. Um, so it looks like Peter Butler is also offering to help anybody with CMVs. Peter Butler assisted in the creation of the Swipe and Swap program, so he's with Mississippi DOT. Good person to get information from. So let's move on to another topic here now that we have talked about that for a while. Then we'll go back to the training side of things here in a little bit. We are on 44 minutes going right now. If you give me a second, uh, so what I am going to do is I'm going to take a quick break momentarily. to get me some more coffee and a snack, and we'll come back and talk about this stuff again. So while I'm leaving, I'm gonna leave you with Stitches. It's a song, a rapper who raps about selling his dope through the mail. Uh, Parental guidance suggested.
I'm pulling up a pint, I'm smoking on that kush, whipping up cocaine, bitch I'm about to cook. You wanna sell drugs, follow my footsteps, then you'll receive cocaine at your doorstep. Through the mail, 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 through the mail. I get cocaine through the mail. I'm whipping that dope in the kitchen. Bitch, you know that I'm selling them pigeons. Bitch, you know that I'm serving them chickens. They hating on me because they know I'm winning. Cocaine, bitch, it made me. Mom gave birth to a drug dealing baby. I can't sell to you if you a pussy. If you a real one, we could cook up a cookie. Drug lord, I am when it comes to the mail. I'm the man, I can put them kilos in your hand. Don't try to go stump posting on the ground. Feds watching all day. I've been selling drugs all day. Sending bricks through the mail all day. Stay true to the game, I'm one way. BRICKS. Through the mail, through the mail. BRICKS. Through the mail. I get cocaine through the mail. I'm pulling up a pint. I'm smoking on that kush. Whipping up cocaine. Bitch, I'm about to cook. You wanna sell drugs? Follow my footsteps. Then you'll receive cocaine at your doorstep. Through the mail, 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 through the mail. I get cocaine through the mail. I'm sending bricks through the mail. If I go to jail, no bail. Still flipping bricks in that cell while I make a call on my cell. Cocaine is one hell of a drug. Take a bump of mines and you fall in love. I only sell bricks, I don't sell dubs, and I don't sell dope to no scrubs. Re-rock, that's you. Ripping off your custos ain't cool. You should come to my drug dealing school. It's time for you to stop acting like a fool. BRICKS.
All right, we are back. Had to go get some coffee. Looks like Shane Billings says he had to go make some coffee because I keep talking about it. Highly recommend if you guys are coffee drinkers, hit up Caliber Coffee on Facebook. It's a fellow officer out of Alabama, and he has some really good tasting coffee. So give him a like on Facebook. I'm not getting paid to say this or anything like that. I believe in supporting each other, and if we have small businesses, and I got some of his coffee and it's really good, so I highly recommend you guys get it as well. Hope you guys liked that song there. That is a rapper named Stitches, and the song's called Through the Mail. He's got a bunch of songs about selling dope and smuggling through the mail and how easy it is. So I got introduced to Stitches from Billy Jones, and it's pretty interesting to see that people are even rapping about how easy it is for them to sell drugs through the mail. If that tells you anything, you should be looking. If you have mail facilities, if you have sort facilities in your area, you really need to go to parcel interdiction schools and learn how to do it, because you will get more dope uh, out of the mail than you will ever get off the highway. I promise you that. All right, have a sip of my coffee here. So we're gonna explore a topic that is bound to get uh, people arguing here: Glock versus Sig. Um, I have seen a lot of agencies, at least here in the Texas area, switching to Sig, the P320. I am not a fan of that gun whatsoever. It's not to say that I do not like Sig. It, Texas DPS switched over to the Sig 320, and it seems like everybody is now switching to it because Texas DPS did. I do not trust the gun. Now, I've had SIGs in the past that I enjoyed. The 226, the 229, all those guns have a history of being really, really good, reliable law enforcement guns for forever. Um, and they've kind of worn out their usefulness. They're older guns. They're heavy. Everybody now has kind of switched over to the polymer frame gun, um, and it kind of the old SIGs are pretty heavy, um, and they do rust. So SIG moved over to the polymer frame within with relatively recently. And the 320 is their model that they have come out with for law enforcement, also for the military. Now, it's not that I don't like them; it's that I don't trust them, and here's why. Um, first, I don't like them because the sights in the slide are so freaking high compared to how the grip on the gun. I'm so used to that lower sight picture in the smaller slide that you would find on a Glock. So the SIG sitting so high, it's after carrying a Glock for 20 years, trying to switch to that sight picture, especially after shooting probably at least 40, 50,000 rounds out of a Glock. It's hard to make that change. So other than the personal preference of the change, the issue I have with them is when I was in Mississippi on the task force, I worked part time at a gun range slash dealership slash manufacturer, and when the 320 came out, we had a lot of people bringing them back with malfunctions. Considerable amount of people bringing them back, and they were having problems with it not firing. Um, so we sent a couple of them back to SIG to find out why, and SIG said that these people were putting oil into the firing pin chamber, and it was causing basically they said it was hydrolocking the pin, which means that there was too much fluid in there and it wasn't getting the amount of, I guess you'd say, speed moving forward to actually strike the striker and cause it to go off. um, and that bothered me. If you get moisture in there, what if you get water in there? What if rain gets in there? What if oil gets in there? Are we now going to have a gun that is not reliable? So I just have a trust issue with the SIG 320 because of that. And I had this discussion online recently with a group of people, and from our Facebook group, and somebody said that up in Northwest Texas, they have discovered that an officer had that same exact issue with the SIG. It fired once and then wouldn't fire again because the firing pin was getting um, having issues because of oil. And I believe that was in an officer involved shooting situation. So personally, I don't trust them. Brian Augustino says neither Smith and Wesson M&P all day. I actually do like the M&P, the second version of it. When they came out with that, I was extremely pleased with the trigger. The first M&P, the trigger was terrible, and I'm a Smith and Wesson armor, and I thought the first trigger was absolutely horrible. Um, However, the second version of it was way better. Fantastic trigger, great gun. Um, I don't know if there's been any issues with the reliability of them, but they definitely I had no issues with them. They're very easy to work on as a armor for Smith and Wesson. They're very easy to work on. Great gun. I have not carried one. I'm not against carrying one, but I would have to put a lot of rounds through it to make sure I trust it. I do trust my Glock. All right, so Sean Eddy says I've carried Glock for years, not much experience with SIG. We're going through a transition on SWAT to carry STI pistols. Um, I've carried a Glock almost my entire career. I started with a Smith and Wesson. Um, Gosh, what was the damn model? 529 or so. His old steel framed Smith and Wesson, and then transitioned to Glock. And of course, everybody at the time back in the early 2000s was carrying Glock 22s or Glock 23s. Everybody wanted 40 cal, and I cannot stand 40 caliber pistols. I am 9 millimeter or 45, one or the other all the way. 9 millimeter preferably. So now I carry a Glock 19, which in my personal opinion is the best gun that has ever been created. It is perfect as far as it can be used as a duty weapon. It can be used as a concealed weapon. It is definitely battle tested weapon that is just the size of it is perfect because it can be used uh, for almost anything. 5906. Wow, Brian Augustino says first pistol was a 5906. Yes, the 5906. I carried the smaller version of it. I cannot 529, I think is what it was called. The 5906 was the full-size Smith and Wesson 9 millimeter um, decockered pistol. It was that silver-framed, steel-framed pistol. Great gun, but they did have some issues with reliability on them. But I carried the small version, and I want to say it was the 529. I don't remember, but it was a good gun. It was heavy, but I had some issues with it. Sean Eddy says I shoot 3 gun matches with the Glock 19, and indeed it is a great gun. It is. Glock 19 is so versatile for anything. Love the Glock 19. Now, here's a some food for thought for you guys. There is actually a gun I like more than Glock, but I don't carry it. And the main reason I don't carry it is because I don't want to scratch it up. I am a super huge fan of CZ. CZ guns are phenomenal guns. I own 3 of them, and if I had a choice of a gun that I want to shoot, because it just feels right and it shoots every time, and it just is such a good weapon. CZs are just amazing, amazing guns. Um, However, I trust my Glock. I know, and I don't care about beating up my Glock. Anybody who works interdiction and crawls underneath cars and all that knows that your gun is going to get trashed. Um, when I talk to interdictors, and you may laugh at this, but I look at their gun because their gun will tell you a lot about them. If somebody who is really dedicated to interdiction will get underneath cars and crawl under them on the highways and whatnot, their gun will be scratched to hell. The the magazine will be really ate up in the corner, and usually once the magazine gets ate up so much, it leads to the bottom, the well of the magazine well of the gun, and will get ate up. Um, so when you see that with somebody who works interdiction, you know that those people work because they get underneath cars and they scratch up their gun. My, if you saw my holster, it is ate up from crawling underneath cars for years, to the point where one of the office workers at the justice court the other day was like, your holster looks bad. It's tore up." But that's how you can tell somebody who really gets out there and gets underneath cars and isn't just looking underneath seats. They're looking for compartments. Um, but I don't want to do that to my CZ. I love CZs. They're beautiful weapons. They are fantastic guns, and I just don't want to do that to my gun, especially because one of my CZs, it took me 2 years to get a hold of one, and then and that's my PO1. That is a steel framed double single action pistol, and it's just it's a hard gun to get a hold of. And when I finally got a hold of one, I am not going to tear that one up. Now I do have the P10, which is their polymer framed um, striker fired gun, and it is I like to shoot that more than I do my Glock. But that is another gun that was quite difficult to get a hold of, and I do not want to destroy that. And when I worked at the gun manufacturer, I was actually told that it's hard to get a hold of CZs because CZ specifically imports only a certain amount of guns per year. They don't bring in mass numbers. It's a very limited numbers per year, so that's why it's so hard to get a hold of them sometimes. Especially the PO1, it is just really hard to get a hold of those guns. And if you haven't held a PO1, go do yourself the favor, find a shop that has one and hold it. The way that gun it sits in your hand is perfection. So highly recommend CZ guns to shoot, but back to our discussion. I prefer my Glock. I trust my Glock. Um, the Glock I carry right now, I've probably put 30,000 rounds through it. Have not replaced anything. Um, it does have a lot of trigger work done to it, but I've had one misfire with in probably 30,000 rounds with that gun, and it was my fault. And the funny thing is, I don't believe in cleaning my Glock. I'll wipe it down, but in but it seems to run better dirty and dry. So I don't do a whole lot to my Glock. Um, but one day I was going to a tactical medic school, and my gun was filthy because I had probably put 5,000 rounds through it in the months leading to that class, at least 5,000 rounds. And the I knew that if I went to a school, a tactical school, with a filthy gun, I was going to end up getting smoked for it. So I cleaned the gun the night before and oiled it, and literally the first shot I took, the gun jammed up because it was clean and wet. I did my corrective actions. I got it, tap rack roll, got it backfiring, and had no problems after that. But that first shot with all that oil and stuff in it uh, caused it to have a problem. So I still don't oil my Glock. I wipe it, and that's about it. And it fires every time. I know that when I pull my Glock out of the holster, it is going to fire no matter what, and I like that. But I don't trust the Sig because people have had issues with it not firing when there's been moisture in the firing pin, and I've seen that personally. I've had customers who had come in with the same problem, and now I've heard of I don't know who the agency was out of West Texas, but I'm venturing to bet it was probably DPS, because the person who was discussing it did not want to name the agency, um, and they had an issue with an officer who had a problem with that exact thing, and it sounded like it was involved in a shooting, and it fired one round and started jamming, or not firing because of the trigger issue. So that is an issue that you will have with the P320. It is a known issue. People who work in stores have probably seen that issue from customers. So do not, by all means, if you do have a P320, do not put any oil down into the firing pin area. Not a drop of oil, at least. If you pull the firing pin out and wipe it with maybe a rag that has oil on it, that might be a little different. But if you get moisture, whether it be oil or water, into that firing pin of a P320, there's a high likelihood that it is not going to fire, and that is a huge problem. So, all right, we are almost to the end of an hour. We're actually just over an hour today. Wow. Had some interaction, and see why that's why it's good that people want to interact, because then we could actually get in here and have discussion. So the more people who are getting involved in the podcast, the more people who are subscribing and hitting that little bell so they know when it's on, the more that people that get in here and chat. Get in the chat, and by all means, if you want to get on the show, get in the Discord, and I will bring you down into the voice chat, and you can be part of the show as well. And the more people who get involved in the show, the better. So that's good for everybody. It helps with the show, helps with interaction, helps make it more interesting, it helps it grow. And I really am trying to get this to grow, to grow. Um, and the reason I did this is I've seen a lot of people asking about law enforcement podcasts, and I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna make one. All right. So, last topic. Let's talk about training. Um, the first thing we'll talk about is all these calls by politicians and by the public for training of law enforcement. They demand that law enforcement have more training. Well, they usually don't have any clue how much training we actually do have. Uh, if you're anybody who's involved in interdiction or any advanced type of law enforcement activity, more than likely you are obsessed with going to training, and have hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of advanced training, and these people don't realize that. And the issue is they demand all this training, and that we need more training, but they don't give us the funding for it. But their idea of training that we need is not necessarily what we really need. Um, we're already, most of us are required to take some sort of bias training. Um, we're more than likely required to take some sort of crisis intervention training, de-escalation techniques, the things that they demand that we have, we more than likely already have. So they typically don't have an idea of what kind of training we do have. Um, and then they demand that we have some type of fighting training to reduce the amount of shooting incidents. Yet then you have cities like New York City who basically ban any type of hold that would actually prevent them from being involved in a shooting. Like let's face it, if you're into any kind of grappling or jujitsu, more than likely you are going to take a position on the ground on top of somebody, or grabbing them around their neck, or putting them in some sort of lock, which would prevent you from having to shoot them. And now the New York City, who has demanded that they get more training to prevent shootings, um, bans most of the stuff that you would use in jujitsu, which would prevent you from getting in the shooting. So they don't know what they want, and that's what the problem is. Is they demand things with no idea of what they really want, and what they want is not realistic. So it's kind of an issue when it comes to training. What do we do? If you're into grappling and jiu-jitsu fighting, and you're in an area now that prevents they bans you from being on top of somebody's chest or diaphragm, or on their back, or putting them in any form of lock, what do you do now? You've spent these years trying to perfect your jujitsu skills to bring somebody to the ground and prevent yourself from needing to shoot them in a physical altercation. And now they're banning you from being able to do that. They're saying they're banning these holds because they're deadly, and they want you to stop using deadly force on people, but they're basically taking your ability to take them to the ground effectively away, which, if they're really fighting you, can be a problem, and it may lead to more shootings. So it's like, what do you want from us? What exactly do they want? It's so confusing. So real quick, I'm gonna pop in here and find discount codes for you guys. So Swipe and Swap is, if you want to take training and you love training and you are interested in Swipe and Swap, if you go to ossfirst.com, Swipe and Swap is available on demand there at any time, any day. You don't have to take it in person. You can take it online. Of course, in person is more interactive, but there is a 20% discount code right now. It's on your screen, so I will leave that on for a second so you can write it down. And if you don't get it written down in time, just go back and watch the YouTube and pause it, and you'll be able to get that code. Sean Eddy is saying in the chat, currently taking Swipe and Swap. Wish I had taken this years ago. I'm hearing that from so many people now, that they wish that they had had a class like this years ago, especially DOT guys. And DOT guys are the ones who deal with trucks all the time for years, and most of them have never even heard of this kind of stuff. And these guys, I'm getting messages from guys out of Pennsylvania, out of Florida, out of Arizona, these DOT guys who are like, wow, I never looked at it this way. And they're finding stuff like crazy. And once you learn it and see it, you can't unsee it. It stands out so bad. So I'm glad these guys are getting involved in Swipe and Swap, because they need to. It's a huge thing and a huge problem, and it can give you that successful feeling that you want as interdictors if you don't have the ability to work on a highway. So get in there and do that. I believe the registration is closed for this one, but it appears Summerdale, Alabama, 11/18 through 11/20. There is a Smugglers Inc. It says that the registration expired yesterday, but I don't know if it really has or not, you'd have to contact Sean. If it was paid by credit card immediately, I'm sure that he would allow you to go. I don't think he is taking POs anymore. But if you're in Alabama and you signed up for this, it'll be a good class. Smugglers Inc. 2.0. Get involved in that. You could also take Smugglers Inc. online by going to OSS First as well. And Evading Honesty is on there too. So if you have not taken any of those classes, highly recommend them. Sometimes they're on sale, sometimes they're not. Like I said, right now the Swipe and Swap is on sale at ossfirst.com. And I'm telling you guys, if you guys have any semis that come through your area, any commercial vehicles that come through your area, you really, really should take Swipe and Swap. It is worth taking. You will look at semis completely different, at least trailers. And I will come out eventually with the different versions of the class for the tractors and different types of trailers and stuff like that. But there's your discount code. Go back and get it if you need it. And it's really worth taking that class. You will not look at trucks the same ever again. And you'd be surprised how much you find by doing that. So let's see what's going on in the general talk. Cody Kemp is saying he is working a Walmart security detail this morning. Hopefully he is tuned in and listening. Haven't had anybody get on air with me, but I've had some interaction in the chats, which is awesome. I'm glad to see that you guys are interacting with me today. Did not have any interaction a couple days ago. So this is what I want. So before I get off the air, like I said, I will not be broadcasting this directly to Facebook anymore. It will be on YouTube. So make sure you hit that subscribe button if you want to keep hearing the podcast. People were asking for podcasts, so I figured I'd make one. So hit subscribe so you can easily find it. And down at the bottom there should be a little bell button. If you will hit that little bell, it will let you know, it'll alert you when I go live. I have not picked the dates and times yet that I'm going to use. I am experimenting right now to find out how much interaction I get in certain time frames, in certain days. So Saturday morning has been a lot of interaction, a lot more than I thought I would find on a Saturday morning. So thank you guys for tuning in. So I am done for the day, and I hope you guys, if you're out there working, you stay safe tonight, or today and tonight. Don't get into any trouble. Be careful. We don't need any more people on Officer Down Memorial page, especially from our interdiction group. So I am going to leave you with another Stitches song about dope in the mail. Take it easy, guys.
I send it, you receive it. I send it, you receive it.
I love the smell of them bread.
I send it,
They whiter than some mayo, and I can send them to your house through the mail. This is drug dealing music.
I send it, you receive it. I send it,
I love the
you receive
smell of the bread.
I send it,
They whiter than some mayo, and I can send them to your house through the mail. This is drug dealing music.
I send it, you receive it. I send it, you receive it.
I'm A1, so is my coat. Stitches get it right off a boat. I'm swagged out every day and night. I like to shoot my gun, cause I don't like to fight. I say run up on me, I'm ready. Gun up in your face is steady. I'm the life of the party, bitch. But I ain't talking confetti. I got bricks. Pounds of that molly. I'm a drug dealer. And I'll tell anybody. I take pride up in that shit. I don't really give a shit. And I shoot my gun real quick if we talking about them bricks. Yep.
I send it,
They whiter than some mayo, and I can send them to your house through the mail. This is drug dealing music.
I send it, you receive it. I send it,
I love the
you receive it.
smell of them bread.
I send it,
They whiter than some mayo, and I can send them to your house through the mail. This is drug dealing music.
I send it, you receive it. send it, you receive it.
That's a piece of cake. Numbers of grams, 1,008. Met a brick in 2008. I'm only 18, do the math, man. I keep flipping, and I won't stop it. Never. Fuck DEA. They trying to take my profit. They some fuck boys. If you got a badge on, you a bitch, bro. I never snitch, bro. Only thing I'm never gonna trust is my AK-47, bro. Rest in peace to a hater. I saw your statement on that paper. I hope your girl ain't got no plans to see your ass later.
I send it,
They whiter than some mayo, and I can send them to your house through the mail. This is drug dealing music.
I send it, you receive it. I send it,
I love the
you receive it.
smell of the